Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on Episode 8 of Dungeon Meshi. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, the party had some business going on with the Kraken and whether or not he was safe to eat. Turns out it kind of isn't, and Elias is paying the price for that. But despite becoming more cohesive as a group, I feel, that's not the only issue. Yeah, so it's rather unfortunate that Elias is in such a poor state, and thought we were getting a little more serious, seeing than how Marcel couldn't hear his heartbeat. But it turns out it was just the armor, which I guess is a neat little red herring. So I'm wondering if this is going to be like a character-driven episode, considering that Elias is effectively out of commission. I mean, I don't really see them being able to make much progress while lugging around a person who's not particularly well. Okay, so we're flashing back to Marcel's childhood. So there seemed to be a lot of expectations of her. You know, she was a very good student. She helped a teacher on her first day, and I mean, at least she has the good grace to sort of dispel the rumors that aren't true, even if she is rather remarkable. Although that said, considering that she's an elf and everyone else appears to be human, I'd imagine that set her apart. So I'm wondering what the purpose of this experiment is. Spirit breeding. That's kind of an interesting thing. You know, like little tiny spirits, getting them to reproduce and all that. I guess if nothing else, based on this explanation, it's sort of like a foundational thing. So I'm wondering, because, I feel like this can go in one of two ways. Either Marcel shows high aptitude for this, or she screws up royally in defiance of her expectation. Alright, so that's interesting, actually, that Marcel would try and create a safe dungeon. Presumably the idea being that monsters would not take up residence there. So that's a laudable goal, but I'm not exactly sure how you can sort of cultivate it and prevent monsters from being dangerous. Because, monsters are fundamentally animals, Like animals, even like animals we would normally consider cute and cuddly, they can be dangerous still. Alright, so this is interesting. Marcel's taking note of this other girl's experiment. And she's kind of an outcast based on what the other students say. Seems like it might be set up for an unlikely friendship. Alright. So that's interesting, I guess. Marcel's jar is in good shape, and oddly enough, the other girl's jar is strong beyond belief. So one has to wonder, like, what did she do differently? Because the idea was she mixed impurities in the soil and the barrier wasn't all that good. So clearly she knows something, or rather, did something unusual. I guess it makes sense that Marcel would be interested in this, but if the sample was taken from an actual dungeon, that's dangerous business going in there unprepared, especially as students. I feel like you're really asking for trouble. But at the same time, I think this is exactly the sort of thing that would form a friendship or compound it. And I'm wondering if this girl isn't maybe Fallen. We've seen little enough of her to begin with, and there's a resemblance here. If nothing else, I guess it would kind of make sense. This sort of friendship would rope Marcel into the group, and that would explain why she was so absolutely willing to delve back into the dungeon. So here's the fundamental difference between them, I guess. Marcel's a lot more cautious about everything, whereas this girl seems to know a little bit about the natural world. I guess it's the difference between intuition and book learning. Yeah, so even though there is like a clear and present danger in this dungeon, and Marcel's aware of that, the girl, she's been down here frequently enough that perhaps it might not be that dangerous. Or if nothing else, she knows how to circumnavigate the dangers. Although that said, this could be the prelude to something rather gnarly, It's hard to say. I mean, I guess this is something, all these little spirits hanging in the air. I'm wondering if this almost constitutes cheating, considering that what we know of the proper method she didn't follow, and she sort of took an especially rich source for her project. Yeah, that's not a good sign for Marcel to call this place seemingly particularly safe. And she seems to be getting some big ideas about using this place to cultivate her own sort of safe dungeon. There's a definite difference of philosophy here. Marcel immediately goes to kill a monster when it's not strictly necessary. A greater understanding of the monster's nature would avoid the need for a fight. Yeah, I guess this is an important lesson. The monsters are part of the ecosystem, and if you want the dungeon to be a dungeon, then you do kind of need them to some degree. It's more like you just have to mitigate the negative aspects of them, I guess. Because, knowing here that slimes won't venture into sunlight, you could probably sort of strategically cordon them off. But, they are necessary to a degree. It is curious that this girl, who is seemingly like the class loser, quote unquote, is teaching Marcel, who was assumed to be exceptionally gifted. Okay, alright, it is Fallen. I was right. That's nice, actually. I think it, kind of grounds things a little bit more, If nothing else, it certainly explains Marcel's motivation. Oh, Chilchuk. I can't blame him for being a little bit incredulous. That story certainly paints her in a good light, but, it's plausible, if nothing else. It's not like she was saying she was the best student in a century. I guess that is kind of interesting, Senshi, who hates magic, also dwells in a dungeon that was created by magic. And what's more, it seems like Fallen talked about Marcel without maybe explicitly naming her. I guess that's nice too. The group has gained a bit more cohesiveness for revealing this. Because, when you think about it, it's obvious why Elias would want to save his sister, but now we know that Marcel has a pretty good reason too. And, sure, Senshi doesn't know Fallen, but, he has his reasons. I guess the only wildcard is Chilchuk, but I was given to understand that it was more like loyalty to the party. Yeah, I'm not sure if prodding Elias is the best idea, considering he's not feeling all that well, but I guess if he's well enough to be awake, that's something. So that's something. They're getting pretty darn close to the Red Dragon by this point. That's interesting. I guess I wouldn't have assumed they'd be getting to it this quickly. Yeah, maybe the dragon's only like a halfway point or something like that. Because I guess maybe resurrection magic isn't something that can be done on site, Or maybe they merely encounter the dragon momentarily, and it gets away again or something. Because, we do know for certain that there are, 24 episodes here. We're only a third of the way in. Alright, this is interesting now. We're actually learning about those other two party members who left. And I feel like we might be given some reasoning for why they did it. Obviously, it was kind of scummy of them, but You know, if you do have to make a living by being an adventurer, you can't get stuck on a revenge mission like this. I mean, not strictly a revenge mission, but the idea isn't to make money. Ooh, you know, something tells me that when you're on this level of the dungeon, where things are highly aquatic in nature, maybe pouring boiling water into an otherwise still pool might not be good. And you know, I don't know what this creature is. If it's like a water elemental, or an undine. That's interesting. So is that... I assume it's like a water elemental, but it's, wow. It looks remarkably, dangerous and aggressive. 'Cause it seems to be blasting little, like, high-pressure jets of water. Like a pressure washer or something. Yeah, so the situation definitely isn't good. Marcel doesn't have her staff, and her water walking spell seems to be wearing off. I mean, I guess she can cast a little magic here and there, but it's nowhere near as potent, I'd imagine. Yeah, you know, sort of standing out in the middle of a big pool of water with this undine creature. It's, oh dear. I was going to say it's not a good situation to be in, but man, that's probably very painful to be impaled through the thigh like that. Frankly, I'm surprised they're showing blood, too. Like, I don't know. Anime, I've found lately, tends to shy away from showing, like, outright blood. You know, maybe they show people, like, scuffed up and everything, but this is, like, you know, bleeding from a puncture wound. Yeah, and, like, actual blood spray, too. Yeah, this is a really bad situation, because nobody else can really go out and help her. Alright, so something has to happen, surely. You know, even if only, like, a memory of Fallen sort of kicks her in the pants, like, something's gotta happen here. Surely this cannot be the end of Marcel. Yeah, you know, I don't know if launching herself in the air like that was necessarily a good idea. Because I'd imagine under the effects of a water walking spell, if you fall on water from that height, you know, it's not good. You'd really hurt yourself. Man, this creature is tenacious. At least a sensible idea has prevailed. You know, they clearly can't fight this thing in their present state. The only thing to do is get out of Dodge. Man. So it seems like just when they're kind of approaching the dragon, Marcel's really taken a few rather grievous injuries. Like, I mean, she's not going to be able to walk nearly as well as she could have done before. Ooh. Yeah, this is a real dilemma. Like, what are they going to do without Marcel? You know, I don't think Chilchek is seriously offering to abandon her. Man. I mean, this is a real dilemma. I don't know what they would do. Alright, time for a big brain maneuver here. You know, if Marcel's lost a lot of blood, then the only thing to do is eat something rich in iron, sort of, give your body the nutrients it needs to replenish its blood. And the liver, being high in iron, can you really ask for something better? And they seem to have a lot of good cuts of meat from that kelpie, so, why not have a good meal? Especially if it'll help Marcel recover. I mean, she certainly looks to be in a real bad way. I mean, it was one thing when Linus was sick, but... man... yeah, I can't say I know what it feels like to have lost a lot of blood, fortunately, but I'd imagine it doesn't feel that great, kind of like being tired all the time, because, your blood, like the hemoglobin, transports oxygen around the body to basically fuel it. Without that, I can't help but imagine you'd just be dreadfully tired all the time. It's also kind of mean that they're just sort of eating everything and salivating over it, and Marcel's just kind of sitting there in a torpor. The least you could do... Alright, well, I take that back. She's actually eating now. But, I was gonna say, the least you could do is, take care of her a little bit. Tend to her first. Man. I can't say I blame her for not being thrilled about liver. Yeah, well, I guess that's the other issue. She really needs to rest to replenish her magic too, not just the blood. Man, this was an interesting episode. And I guess to compound that, it seems like these are the other adventurers from before, and they're now attracted by the scent of grilling meat. So I can only imagine this is going to lead to some sort of a conflict. I hope that's not the case. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.